everybody. Welcome to Liliana's Sensational Living. Thank you for joining me again. I am so grateful for all of your interest. I had such a wonderful response last week, so you guys have inspired me. I'm going to try to do this every Friday. I will let you guys know in advance when it'll be live, so you can join in with me if you like it. Sign up for the Facebook and send it out to your friends. My goal is to try to give you some education each and every time I do this. And one of the things I want to talk today is about gluten and why is gluten getting such a bad rap. Well, for one thing, unfortunately, the gluten that we have in this country has been so hybridized and so adulterated that in fact it has about 5% new protein that our body doesn't even recognize, and this is the problem. So it's causing a lot of problem for most people, even if they have never had an issue with gluten or they don't have a sensitivity or do not have celiac disease. In fact, a study in 2009 revealed that 50 years ago that there was 1 in every 650 cases of celiac disease. Now there's 1 in every 120. So really it's become a problem for many, many people that have never experienced a sensitivity to a wheat product before. Gluten is in a variety of grains: wheat flour, semolina, rye, barley. Oats is not considered gluten, but it's kind of a cross. I always tell patients it's always better to get gluten-free just because it's a little safer. The one thing that I do tell patients is that just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's sugar-free. So when you're out in the stores and looking for gluten-free desserts, really notice on the back what the total carbohydrate content is, because honestly that means total sugar. I always tell my patients you can deduct the fiber and say if something is one piece is going to be 20 grams of carbohydrates, really look at that as 20 grams of sugar. You can deduct the fiber, say it has 5 grams of fiber, then it would be a net 15 carbs. So one of my goals of teaching my patients to create a state of well-being is to keep their blood sugar stable. One of the things that's very important for people who have any kind of immunity issues, whether it is a gluten intolerance and it moves into autoimmunity, Hashimoto's, lupus, things of that nature, or even cancer, is that sugar is very problematic. And so today we are going to make a really balanced meal, and I want to make a salad that is really a dinner salad. And honestly, you can add to this and make a 3-course meal out of it, but today we're going to do a salad as a main meal. One of the things that I'd also like to share in regards to the gluten aspect is that if you have any kind of suspicion that you might be gluten intolerant, you may be experiencing some bloating, some gas, maybe even some GI disturbances, even belching. You might just try taking gluten out of your diet for about 30 days. If you feel better, the likelihood of you being gluten intolerant is pretty high. You don't need to go and do an expensive test. Your body really tells you best. And oftentimes some of these tests actually come back negative, but the patient still has experienced the problems. And when I do recommend that they get off of gluten, a lot of times they get rid of their aches and pains. Sometimes there are arthritic issues or tendinitis issues. They lose weight as well. And so if in fact there is 5% more proteins that our body doesn't even recognize, and it's causing inflammatory issues in the gut especially, which your immune system, your lymph nodes are connected to your gut, which means that everything that doesn't break down goes into the bloodstream, and then of course the immune system becomes overactive and attacks it as well. Unfortunately, those people who are sensitive, whether they're just sensitive or actually celiac, what happens is that when they eat these foods, they have these little villi, everyone has them in their intestinal tract, that is detecting whether whatever object touches it, whether it's friend or foe, whether it's virus or bacteria and or foods. So if you have a sensitivity toward it, what happens is that you produce an enzyme that is supposed to break these peptides apart. And so in response to that, if you have a sensitivity, you produce another enzyme called zonulin. And that enzyme, what happens, it actually begins to create little permeability in your cell walls, and not only does it neutralize the very enzyme that it's supposed to break down, but it makes the cell walls a little bit more permeable and weak, and it allows for any of those food particles to enter into the bloodstream, very problematic and an inflammatory response. It's like somebody ringing the bell in the fire department. Everybody's on high alert. And unfortunately, when the immune system goes into this high alert, it can get a little hectic in regards to what it is supposed to be breaking down, and often attacks the mimicry endocrine systems like the thyroid, autoimmune issue or not. I asked them to get off of the gluten and see what their experience is, and 9 times out of 10, they always report back to me that they're feeling so much better. In 48 hours, your gut actually repairs itself, but if you have gluten sensitivity, actually what happens, you never give it time to repair itself, and so the immune system is kind of in a hyperdrive all the time, and as I said before, will begin to attack the very organs like the thyroid, especially breaking it down even further when it's an autoimmune issue. So with that, I hope all of you guys just listen to your body. I always say eat what likes you. If you experience a good feeling afterward, you have energy, your digestion was good, then more than likely that food liked you. But if you have a response that is adverse and you're having some GI disruption, then take it out of your diet. Just do it for 30 days and then get back to me and let me know what happens. So let's go ahead and start and make this crispy salad as a main meal. And again, you can add any kind of vegetables to this as well. So I'm going to start out with half a cup of gluten-free flour, a quarter cup of gluten-free flour. You don't really need much. All I want to do is just basically coat it. I don't want to coat it so that it's just too chunky or anything like that. I'm going to generously use herbs. I love using herbs because the more flavor something has, the more appealing it is to you. And honestly, it's what it's all about is the flavor. I'm going to go ahead and put a half a teaspoon of paprika generously. I'm going to put in a generous amount, half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, of garlic powder, of thyme. Sometimes I add a little more thyme because I just liked the flavor of thyme. Then 21 seasonings. You can get this anywhere at Trader Joe's. I add a little bit more of that too, maybe 3/4 of a teaspoon there. And then I add some black pepper. I just like to use the meal kind just because it gives it just a little bit more flavor than the over mealed one. I like to add a little chipotle in it, and again, it's a little teeny spicy, so don't go over the top. Definitely don't add a half a teaspoon to it. Maybe just even at the most 1/4 of a teaspoon, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that to that now. And then again, you can kind of sprinkle it so you can kind of, get a taste for what your family likes, but my family likes lots of flavor. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a little whirl here. And you can kind of see in the color that it has if it's going to be really with that beautiful herb flavor to it. And if you feel that it needs a little bit more color to this, just add some more herbs to it. This is some chicken here. It's about 1.5 pounds chicken. This should feed about a family of about 4, maybe 6 if you're not big eaters. But I put 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard and some chicken in here. This is organic chicken. I didn't need to add any oil to it because the mustard is going to pick up the flour very good, very easily. I don't overdo it. Just give it a little tap there and then dust it off. I'm going to go ahead and put my pan on here. And I keep it, on medium here. I put about 4 tablespoons of walnut oil. I like using walnut oil, avocado oil, coconut oil. I don't use olive oil when I cook anything of high heat because it doesn't have a good heating point to it. And so this seems to work just fine. So I'm going to give this a little whirl here. Now what I decided to do, since it's Halloween, is just to get in the spirit, and I didn't put anything orange in here because I'm using beets as my high sugar food here. Otherwise I could have used some butternut squash in here. But so I decided to do some toasted pumpkin seeds. I get my pumpkin seeds from a co-op because I like to have organic pumpkin seeds or any kind of nuts to be organic, because oftentimes they will spray them with an antifungal that is pretty toxic. So try to get your nuts organic as much as possible. I went and put on a dry roasted, I put about, now I'm just using this very small little pan just to give you an idea. I put the pumpkin seeds in there. I heated up the pan first, and I just kind of let them puff up a little bit. Don't overcook them because there's nothing like having burnt nuts in a salad. And then just let it heat up a little bit. And I'm going to put just a little teeny bit of gluten-free tamari in there. I like to have savory in my salad, so this salad can have, it's going to appeal to every senses in regards to the savory, the sweet, the texture of the balsamic vinaigrette. A lot of my patients, that's probably one of their favorite dressings because it is sweet. Everybody loves sweet. We're really hardwired for sweet as our primal instinct. But again, you know, we eat 150 pounds of sugar, not like our ancestors do. So a little bit goes a long way. So I've just heated up this oil nicely. I can kind of see it moving around a little bit. And again, this is so quick, which is so nice. So you girls or men out there who love to cook, you don't need to spend a whole lot of time in the kitchen. You can just see how quickly I'm putting this all together. And I'm going to turn it down just a little bit more. So we've got that going there. Let's put this over here. So you see, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. It just takes, you know, kind of stepping out of the box a little bit. What my goal is to give you lateral shifts. If you like chicken fingers, chicken tenders, we're going to make them gluten-free, and your kids are going to love them. And no more going to McDonald's and getting the crispy, over-fried, hydrogenated nuggets that they get. It's not necessary. You got to not only put the love into your food in regards to healing yourself and your family, but really shop wisely. You know, a lot of my patients, you know, kind of balk a little bit about spending a little bit more money in the health food stores. But honestly, if you shop wisely and go to your co-ops and go to your farmer's market, and you know, I kind of have a little triangle where I go in regards to places I can get all my organic food. So, you know, just kind of go out there and see what's available, because you'd be surprised how the grocery stores are really starting to catch on to everybody's really becoming a lot more conscious about what they're feeding their families and themselves. So we've got this chicken going here, and so you just want to make sure that it doesn't cook too quickly, but I do like to give it a crisp edge on it right away, because then I can turn it down. And so you can see what has this all been of about a minute and a half. And so again, this chicken's going to take probably altogether 6.5, 7 minutes. So again, it's a very quick, easy meal. And what's nice about this is the leftovers are great the next day, whether you just take them on your own or throw them in a salad with whatever's left over. I always make extra for the next day because I take my lunch to work every day. You can really get the quality of food when you know you're cooking it yourself. So, you know, take the time to do it. I hear a lot of patients say to me, oh, I don't have time, but yet, you know, what is time when it comes to your health? When you don't have your health, you realize that there's not anything that's going to replace it. So time in the kitchen, I say that, you know, the true healing, the cure is really in the kitchen. So a little bit of tamari. So these are toasted. I already put a little bit in. I really only put in about a teaspoon. I'm not going to do it again, but I just kind of want to show you. I want to feature kind of 1 or 2 things each time we do a show. And so I'm featuring the chicken, and I'm going to make a really nice balsamic vinaigrette that will be awesome. Okay, let me see where my bowl went. Oh, okay. I'm going to put a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and actually, you know, I'm kind of a little generous with this, so just kind of fill it up a little bit. I'm going to use balsamic vinaigrette. Be wise when you're going out to get your balsamic vinaigrette, because obviously, if you look on the back and it says carbohydrates, the one that's going to be more syrupy, the one that's great, usually you get those on the caprese salad, it's got 10 carbohydrates to 11 carbohydrates per tablespoon, where this only has 2. So obviously this is going to be your better bet every time. So I'm just going to put 2 tablespoons of, oops, not this, this is my olive oil, I'm going to use that too. The balsamic vinaigrette, just 2 tablespoons in here. And then again, you can always correct the taste if it's a little too vinegary with a little bit more oil. Give us a little whirl here. I'm keeping an eye on this chicken because there's nothing worse than dried out chicken. So again, take your time. I've got it kind of crispy on both ends now. So I'm just going to turn it off, and I'm just going to let it sit there until I am ready to serve this. Now, of course, since we're having it as a main meal, you don't necessarily want to put hot chicken onto your salad. I don't mind sometimes, honestly, but again, you can actually cook this ahead of time and have it all ready to go, so you don't have to spend too much time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a little swirl here, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of, actually 8 tablespoons of olive oil. And again, get the best quality olive oil you can buy. A lot of people don't like that kind of rich flavor to it. I promise you'll get used to it. My husband's like, whoa, this is really, you know, a little bit bitter rather than the light one, but honestly, it's so much better for you. It actually is an olive oil that can actually help you in regards of the good cholesterol, the good fats in your diet. We create 80% of our own cholesterol. You don't really get that much from your diet, so really what you do get should be of quality. Very, very important. I'm going to get a whisk here because I didn't have it right here a minute ago, and here it is. All right, got to have a whisk. So I'm going to just drizzle in approximately about a half a cup of olive oil in here. Make sure I got olive oil and not balsamic vinaigrette. And again, just whisk towards you. It's just really easy to do. I always tell everyone that's learning how to cook from me, salad dressing is very fussy. If you're not paying attention, it can separate on you very easily. So, and like I had mentioned in my last video, is my mother said never cook while you're upset. So again, pay attention to the salad dressing because it is very finicky. Just give it a little whirl here. So it's got a nice little consistency there, which is great. Now I like to taste everything just so that we can correct the seasoning on that. I'm going to put a little salt in here as well. So I love to use good salt. I do not use regular sea salt, so this is Celtic salt, real salt. These are all awesome. So I'm just going to put probably about, I'd say a little bit more than a half a teaspoon there. And then some black pepper. A lot of people use sugar as a standard little brown sugar to this, or they might even add some thicker balsamic. But why add the extra sugar? So I'm just going to add a drop, maybe 2 drops of stevia. If you don't like stevia, some people don't. They don't like they don't like that bitterness. I really have no problem with it anymore. I like to use the liquid. I'm just going to add a drop or 2 of this just to give it just a little extra sweetness to it. And then give it a whirl. I'm just going to taste it. See how we're going here. Just kind of put it in my palm there. Perfect. Now, of course, if it's a little bit vinegary, you just add a little bit more olive oil to it. You can kind of get a palate because when it's a little bit too vinegary, it'll hit the back of your throat like a bad tequila. And so we want to make sure that it actually opens and bursts into your mouth and doesn't attack you too much. Okay, so I think we're pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and put this beautiful salad together. I'm just going to remove everything so that you aren't impeded by all of the spices. You guys have to see my cupboard someday. I'm going to take you into my cupboard. I've got hundreds of spices, and I tell patients, you know, we don't need to run home and, you know, start throwing away everything that's not organic. Just make a lateral shift. When that paprika is finished, you go and get an organic one, and then you kind of move into, you know, each one of your things that is in your cupboard that's going to have better value for you. So I've got some endives over here. And again, it's all about presentation. Again, we're all about sensational living. So we want it to look good from the start. I'm just going to take a handful of these greens here. Just set them right in the middle. Of course, you can have as much as you want. And then I love fennel. And so again, I cut it really thinly. So I'm just going to just put some fennel on there. Like gives it a little bit of crunch. I didn't add tomatoes. I didn't add cucumber to this because I kind of want to give it that delicate of the sweetness and the crispness, but not do just a regular salad with all of the normal things that we would put in it. So a little bit of bell pepper because we're leaning towards sweet and savory here. And again, you know, just make it as beautiful as you want to. Take a little bit of the pumpkin seeds. Make it look good. And I love beets. Now, beets are very high in sugar as well, so about a half a cup of beets is about 7 to 9 grams of carbohydrates. This meal here, including the glucose that is from the gluten-free flour, is approximately at the most 14 to 15 carbohydrates. And honestly, 14 carbohydrates is less than one piece of bread. And so you're getting a whole meal that should be very satiating to you. You've got some cooked vegetables in here, so it kind of anchors you to feeling a little bit full. A little sweetness, so you kind of get the hit of wanting to fulfill that little sweet taste that we have. A little bitterness. We got all kinds of things happening here. I'm just going to go ahead and add this nice balsamic vinaigrette on here. I'll add the chicken last. Kind of make it look good. Sometimes I just toss the salad if I've got a bunch of people over here and I don't want to sit there and individualize the plates. Then I take a couple of pieces. Now I look at this and I say, well, what else could I do on that? I'm going to add a little bit of paprika. I love color. So I'm just going to add a little paprika to this just to give it a last little kick. Again, be really creative. Don't, like I said, yeah, you can make mistakes, but most of the time they're always fun mistakes and you can correct them if you don't like them usually. But when you add a little bit more spices, it's pretty hard to make a mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and set these on there now. So really for a woman, I'd say about 2 pieces. That's approximately about 3.5 ounces of protein. For men, they usually are going to go to 4 to 5. So usually my husband likes 4 pieces at least. He says I eat as much as he does, but we go toe to toe mostly. So there you have it. This is a beautiful salad that you can make really within 30 minutes. It's completely non-inflammatory. You'll enjoy it and your kids will enjoy it. I'm going to drizzle just a little teeny bit of the balsamic vinaigrette over it. And again, I always put the salad dressing on the table, so if anybody else wants a little bit more, that's one thing that they do in restaurants oftentimes. Sometimes don't give you enough, so you put it on the side. So once again, thank you for allowing me to share my passion with you. And if you enjoyed this video, please sign up for Facebook. And I will let you know when I'm going to be live. Hopefully would like to do one every Friday. Sometimes I'll be traveling, so I won't be able to do it. So I'll let you guys know, share it with your friends and family, and have a great day.